What is Leopoldskron? How do these properties from aristocratic Europe work? And why are many people confused about the filming of The Sound of Music? Let's understand it together. Just starting with my bike, we're right into Leopoldskron, which is not so far away from here. So here we are. This is Castle Schloss Leopoldskron. The lake is frozen. It's been a very cold winter so far in Salzburg. And as you can see, there's a building nearby. It's not separate property. This is the Meierhof. So it's probably new for some people out there, but all villas, palaces and castles used to have a separate building for the staff, the servants, the carriages, the cattle. So this is a dependence, and it used to be the dependence of Castle Leopoldskron, so that's what it is. So this is a site you probably know from The Sound of Music, you know, Mount Untersberg, Hohe and the Alps, and that's Leopoldskron. And this here is the Meierhof, and as you can see, there is a boundary wall. The boundary wall of the property goes all around the property all the way, so that's basically it. There we go. So once again we have the fortress, boundary wall and Leopoldskron. So just continuing, this is still the boundary wall. This is Leopoldskroner Straße, I think it's called. This is your bus stop if you ever need to come by bus. There we go. And if you're asking why is there a separate gate, because of course carriages, cattle and servants had their own separate entrance. Also, if you have to deliver something, of course you want to be the nearest possible. Still the same boundary wall. There we go. Everybody's gonna think I'm even crazier than I actually am. This is if you want to go back towards the old town, and there we are. The gate's open, but yeah, I'm not entering. And this is exactly the driveway I'm gonna show you that leads to the lake. So no mysteries here. As you can see, this is the same property, has always been, and so I'm gonna clarify all the terminology and the history. This boat was here last summer of 2025. I went to the picnic in park with The Sound of Music and was able to take this picture. As you can see, there's a driveway that we've just seen, starting from the gate on Leopoldskroner Straße and leading to the lake. There's the Meierhof right ahead, and on my right side there would be the Schloss, the palace, which you cannot see. The driveway now serves the Hotel Leopoldskron, so it's paved and it looks different than in the film. See further evidence here. It's a screenshot from my own video. We have the gate and the driveway, then a little bit of the driveway in the sun. I'm sorry, it was right in front of me. Once again, the driveway, the start of the picnic near the reception. Here are two screen caps from the film and also a behind the scenes picture I borrowed. And here we have tiles instead of the tarmac, but that's the same place. And look at the trees here. You can recognize some of the trees from then, despite the different angle and the decades in between. Hi again, I'm Felicita Ratti. I'm a historian, translator, language teacher, and intercultural and relocation consultant. I live in Salzburg near the airport, not so far away from Leopoldskron. Some of my works here about Austria, First Republic, and the end of the First World War and the First Republic. history of medicine, and I wrote about the Spanish flu in Salzburg and in my hometown Modena. Other works like this one. I also co-worked at this one, and I wrote a few pages about the Italians at the Salzburg and the Eagle's Nest in this edition. Let's review a few Leopoldskron's facts to explain what I just showed you, what I just told you. I'll be reading. I mean, I'm not an actor, and I don't have time to learn things by heart. I have a job. So let's review a brief history of Leopoldskron and the explanation of what I showed you to convince you, and I'll also address a few of the claims that have been done towards us, basically. So, Prince Archbishop of Salzburg, Count Leopold von Firmian, commissioned the palace in 1736 on the shores of an existing pond, the pond we all know from The Sound of Music. And yes, the pronunciation of the surname is Firmian, privileges of a local. The pond is an important detail, not just for The Sound of Music. We'll get back to it later. The Prince Archbishop acquired the area between the palace and Mount Untersberg as a family estate, which he passed on in May 1744 to his nephew, Count Lactance Firmian. Please note that at the time, Salzburg wasn't Austria, but it was an independent Prince Archbishopric, an ecclesiastic state of the Holy Roman Empire. I am originally from Modena, which at the time, similarly, was an independent duchy and a state of the Holy Roman Empire. This is an important fact to keep in mind. The entire estate was and still is Leopoldskron, of course. Every villa, every palace, every castle in Europe usually has the aristocratic abode, the fancy one, and the dependance, the dependency. Often you'll hear the French term for it. Sometimes there were even more than one dependency, and they were used to host the staff, the servants at the time, to shelter the carriages, and also to house the steward or administrator, who usually had a nice house, of course, being on top of the staff hierarchy. This is exactly why the property of Leopoldskron has two buildings. The Meierhof is exactly the building which was occupied or had been occupied previously by the administrator of a noble or ecclesiastical estate, the Meier. It's what the word means, Meierhof. I'll show you a table later. Back to Leopoldskron's story. The Napoleonic Wars and time made Leopoldskron change hands. Same as Salzburg, after all, which in 1816 was annexed to Austria. The most interesting detail from this era is that on the pond, a swimming school was open. The home regiment, the Infanterieregiment 59 Reinhardt, decided in 1818 to open a swimming school to train its soldiers, and the project was realized in 1829. Difficulties in negotiating with the Firmian family led to its closure, but then the city of Salzburg opened its own open-air swimming school, or better, a swimming pool, exactly there. Sadly, this school was destroyed during an air raid in 1944. By the way, do not attempt to imitate the Trapp children and Maria by diving in, since according to those who were born here, there are still craters and possibly even ordnance from the Second World War. Legend, truth, you don't want to know. Current days, Leopoldskron got its swimming pool back in the mid-60s, so probably around the time The Sound of Music was filmed. the new swimming pool Freibad Leopoldskron was opened. It's right beside Schloss Leopoldskron, and we call it affectionately Lepi, short form for Leopoldskron. Let's see my reportage from Boots on the Ground reportage. You're probably going to ask yourself why I'm filming this. So this is exactly nearby. So we have Leopoldskron here. This is once again boundary wall, the Meierhof, the dependency, and this is one of Salzburg's main swimming pools for the summer. So the open air ones. Here you can see it better. So this is a swimming pool, and as I said, Leopoldskron is exactly next to it. There we go. This is the parking lot, and this is the entrance to Salzburg's swimming pool called Leopoldskron. So Leopoldskroner Bad. Back to the property. The property has had many owners and tenants since 1816. A relevant moment was Max Reinhardt buying it in 1918 and restoring it to its original splendor. Reinhardt was a theater and film director and producer, not to mention one of the founders of the Salzburg festivals. Max Dittweiler in The Sound of Music is thought to be a sort of homage, a tribute to Reinhardt himself. Reinhardt, however, had to flee Austria after the Anschluss and was expropriated by National Socialist law. After the war, Salzburg became US-occupied territory. The entire country of Austria was occupied by the Allies and was divided in sectors from 1945 till 1955. Direct occupation, so there was actually not really an Austrian state, to be honest. There was a government, there were the local administrations, but it was a direct occupation by the Allies. So in a very different form from the German one. At this time, the property was returned to the heirs. In this case, it was Reinhardt's widow, who offered the property to an American cultural institution, Salzburg Global Seminar. Now, Salzburg Global, it's still there. That's why I didn't enter the place, because in that case I wasn't invited. I didn't have a ticket for a show or for a conference, so we usually try not to disturb either the Salzburg Global or the hotel, which is right now inside Leopoldskron. What happened? Austria became independent once more in 1955, and the city or the municipality of Salzburg wanted to purchase the property, which it did. The city then, or the municipality, sold first the palace, the Schloss, to Salzburg Global in 1959, then the Meierhof in 1973. Although I'm not aware of the reasons of the split, I might imagine that both the city and Salzburg Global had their own budgeting and financial strategies. At the time The Sound of Music was filmed, the Meierhof was rented out to the publishing house Bertelsmann, which is why the notes that most English-speaking fans and professionals refer to report this name instead of Leopoldskron. See, for example, the very famous book, The Making of Americans' Favorite Movie by Julia Antopol-Hirsch. Not sure if it's an English pronunciation or a German one. You'll correct me if you know. So I have the book here just to show it to you. Where it is? Right now. There it is. So this book lists the place as Bertelsmann, and I suppose there was some miscommunication, some incident, some probably mistranslation. I'm not sure, to be honest. And I suppose that the truth being mostly US Americans, historical and languages nuances were lost. Same at what happened when this book was written, I suppose. Hence, someone started the myth that it was a different property, which it wasn't. And someone decided it was a great opportunity to insult locals on Facebook. By the way, after 17 years here and after teaching German in the name of the Republic of Austria, I do consider myself almost a local. So yes, the scenes were filmed at Leopoldskron. I'll explain it further. I own a flat. This flat where I am with a sort of the Sound of Music view myself was one of the grounds I decided myself for this flat. My part of town borders with Leopoldskron Moos, which is the neighborhood where Leopoldskron is. And my own home is a perfect analogy. I own my flat as an Anteil, a part or percent of the property, but the Liegenschaft, the property, is one entire property consisting of 2 house numbers and a common garage. There are several owners besides myself, and there are tenants too, since some owners live elsewhere and are just landlords. Leopoldskron was at the time the same. The Meierhof was built after 1763 as the functional dependency of the Schloss, and as I explained before. So house to the steward, administrator. To claim it isn't the same property because the assets were rented out or sold at different times is a topographical, linguistic, and legal misunderstanding. A summary of the terms that might cause some confusion. Here my table. This is literally what Meierhof means. It means court of the steward or court of the administrator. This table is very useful for my job, so you'll see my native Italian as well. The Meier has several meanings. One of those is steward, administrator of an estate, such as noble or ecclesiastic one, you know, the one with farms and lands and other houses and so on. So the Meierhof is literally the administrator's home, the steward's home. And as we say, the entire grounds of Leopoldskron are the same Liegenschaft, the same property, even though there are 2 buildings, even though those buildings were rented out at different times, were sold at different times. I was made aware that some people made rather offensive remarks arguing that, and I quote, not a frame was filmed on the grounds of Leopoldskron. I already explained that this is either a lie or a misunderstanding at best. Also, these very same people stated that, and I quote again, the place perpetuates a totally false narrative and, it's my understanding, they don't even bother telling guests that the actual location is just a short walk away. Once again, it's either a lie or a misunderstanding. It is the same property, and it's not a walk away. It's just a few meters away, a distance so short that even the most creative unit of measurement couldn't turn it into a walk away. It's the same grounds, the same Liegenschaft, a few meters away. Don't remember the American unit. Just translate it for yourself, please. I'm not familiar with imperial. If people would just bother to talk to us locals, and I mean the qualified ones, not the ones who live in their bubble or who do something entirely different for work, for a living. And the other option will also be learn some German, and I don't mean a few words with an app. I mean learning seriously and, you know, buying books. If you just talk to us and you ask us about this whole thing I just explained, instead of insulting us, we wouldn't have this situation. That someone could also say we wouldn't have this very interesting video, because I really think this video is interesting. And I mean, especially because this is very funny. These claims of different property and of a false narrative and a walkaway were made by, just sit down, by using Google Maps from, I don't know, 10,000 kilometers away, using Google Maps, Google Earth. Are you serious? And you're famous people, rich people, I mean, just no. Relied solely on Google Maps to debunk centuries of Austrian land registry and local history isn't just bold, it's a topographical hallucination. I mean, if you don't believe me, there is still something else. And it's the United States Armed Force in Austria. On the 16th May 1953, on their Armed Force Day, they published this map of Salzburg. Let's zoom a little bit. The property is correctly marked as Schloss Leopoldskron, and the pond is correctly marked as Leopoldskroner Teich. Also, another thing about Leopoldskron, because I read many things on Facebook and on other social media, Leopoldskron is in Salzburg. It's not in the country, it's not at South Town. It's near the old town, by the way. And it's in fact in a rather central position as of today, due to the huge and constant expansion of the town since the 80s. My own home, this home, was built in 1988. That's when I began elementary school in Italy. So, and since the 80s, the town has really grown. So many places that were country became neighborhoods, became quarters, Stadtviertel, as we say in German. Yeah, there was a little detail, the Eingemeindung in 1939. The Eingemeindung was made by the National Socialists. Several municipalities were abolished and joined with Salzburg. And one of those was Leopoldskron, and another one, for example, was Aigen, where the real Trapp-Family used to live. But today the place is totally in town. It's really central. You can have a look at it. It's really not outside town. And it's a few minutes by bike to the old town. If you know your way around Nontal, there are many paths and tracks also. And it's not much longer on foot. Once again, it depends on you if you know where the paths and the tracks are, if you're used to walking. And by car, it would be like a minute. The problem is, it depends on whether you'll find where to park or not. This is the main problem in Salzburg. Yeah, Frohnburg, the other topic. Yes, I'm also aware that some frames actually have the back of Frohnburg as background. Here's myself with a friend, another Italian fan of the sound of music, and we were at Frohnburg in 2011. We were able to enter because it is the building belongs to the Art and Music University, and if it's open because students are going in, you can basically enter. Don't do that, because I mean, if you don't speak German, you might not be aware of what's happening. And in my case, there was no problem at all. And just don't go snoop around in classes. People might be rehearsing or whatever. This here is my last visit in October 2025. It was a very nice day. I wanted to go out with my bike a little bit. I'm personally rather curious as to how the film was edited to make it seem all filmed in the same place, because in my mind this is like a huge challenge, but I will not launch myself in hypothesis, since I'm not in the industry and I really wouldn't know how it's done. I mean, it was a nightmare for me to make this video, to edit it all, so I'm most likely not trying to explain what might have happened in this case. So I think this is all for this round of explanations. If you need someone who's not just a perfect trilingual professional, translator, historian, consultant, and an Italian living in Austria, just like the real von Trapps, but also a huge fan of the movie, whatever. Just ask me, and I'll see if I can find a documented answer for all of your doubts about culture, about the place, and whatever. One of my books I already showed you was about the end of the First World War and the First Republic in Austria, so until the Anschluss, until the National Socialists marched in. And I'm also currently researching a few other related topics about the Trapp-Family. I'll definitely talk about it when I'm almost finished, when the books are almost ready to be published. And I also teach German for professionals, immigrants, unemployed, and refugees. As I said, I do it on my own, and I also do it sometimes in the name of the Republic of Austria and its integration funds. So questions, insults, remarks, and complaints can be sent to my email address, which I'm showing to you right now. And see you soon or not. Bye. Tschüss. Servus.